Now, okay, so we are live. Kyle, thanks a million for coming. It's great to have you. Finally meet you after months of talking on Twitter.
Yeah, it's not Neil, but Niall. It's not too
Niall,
late.
yes.
Yeah,
It'll take you a while, especially after reading it for so long. Um, I'm sure it takes a while. As I said, most people make that mistake anyway. So you are definitely not the first one to make it. Let me just make sure everyone can hear us okay. Is the audio okay? You can let us know in the chat, and then we will take off.
testing, testing.
Okay, well, we have 10 people on anyway so far. I'm sure there's going to be a few. There was lots of interest in this kind of discussion anyway. Everyone's always interested, especially current situation is probably now better now than ever to be talking about these kind of things because everyone's interested in probably needs a bit more money, especially if they're struggling with income or jobs or anything else. And I think it's also a great way of just protecting your income as well. You know, having this skill set and always having some income coming in this way, it just means you aren't 100% reliant on your boss in case, you know, they make a bad decision. So that's always that's often what I think about. And I think that's more than anything is I wanted to have some control over income with some freelancing and things. So, first off, Kyle, I will have to get you to introduce yourself. I'm hoping most of the people that are here already are sick of me from the meetup and everything else, so they'll probably know me already. But they may not know you, and if not, you know, go nuts. Who you are, where they can find you, and of course, you have to plug the freelancing course as well. I think Kyle has frozen, has he?
Can everyone hear me?
Oh, you froze for a second there. You are back. It's all right.
1 second.
No.
Sorry, are you there?
Yeah, we can hear. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm so sorry for that. I don't know what happened there, but anyway, let
That's
that
all
be the
right.
intro. I'm excited to be. um,
Speechless.
yeah. So about myself, I'm Kyle Prinsloo. I run a blog called studywebdevelopment.com, where I help other web developers and web designers around the world generate a side income or a full-time income. And in case you haven't picked up by now, I'm not from the US, nor am I from the UK, but I'm from South Africa, and that's pretty much where we run things. And we've got a study web development is a big core of our business, like the online education route. And then we also have e-commerce businesses that we sell in South Africa, various, two main e-commerce businesses that we sell physical products like drop shipping. And we also have a marketing agency where we are helping clients because, Joshua says I'm very quiet.
It could be me or turned up too loud. So you keep chatting away, and I'll try bring down my levels to meet you because I have a little switch I can turn down here. So if it let me know when the levels are getting better. If it's you can barely hear Kyle. Okay,
Oh,
so
okay. Okay, I'm going to try and speak a little bit louder and hopefully everyone can hear me. Um, so that's
turn
pretty
up the
much the
volume, and I'll
background
turn me down. Now let's
on
see.
my side.
No,
Okay.
I think on I think I probably had to gain up too high on the sound because I anticipated people would call me quiet. So so I probably have
Okay.
myself up too loud. Um,
Okay. I
so
just want
if
to check quickly in the chat. Did you guys hear what I said in the intro, or can you hear me better now? Should I repeat myself?
we'll give it, it takes about 10 seconds for the feedback loop, but yeah, because I can hear you fine. So I'm guessing it's my audio that's too loud more than anything.
Okay. Cool. Okay, I'll just carry on. Assuming people can hear me. Um,
Yeah.
so I think what's important here is we still have a marketing agency, so we're still practicing freelancing. And oh, wait, hang on, Neil is still quite loud. Okay, okay, so it's getting
All right.
better.
Let me
Okay,
push this
perfect.
back. Yeah, I might be getting.
Cool, cool. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. So we have a marketing agency where we do freelancing, right? and
Yeah.
and we've got clients around the world, and we focus on getting them more sales and all of that. So what's important, and I actually tweeted it out today, is that what really grinds me is people who teach something for the sake of teaching it, but they haven't done it. So it's all theory, right? And what's
Yeah.
important to me is I want to still keep doing freelancing. I want to still keep helping clients. I want to still keep doing the marketing and all of that so that I can help teach what works for us and also live what I'm teaching, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
no.
much my intro.
Yeah, and that makes sense. As I said, like I think that's what makes you unique versus a lot of people I see kind of selling ebooks and just on the topic, because it's a very, as I said, this is a very big topic that a lot of people are interested in, because everyone wants, like, I assume everyone wants to be their own boss. That's just me, because I have always wanted it. But everyone probably wants the security of being able to build their own business, or
Very
knowing that
true.
if they need it. Oh, you're really loud now.
Oh, is it loud now? I'm so sorry. I just
Okay.
changed a different setting. Just let me know if this is better.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. So
Sorry.
now, is that
Okay,
better for everyone?
I assume everyone can hear now. I don't know what happened there. I'm so sorry.
Okay, so yeah, let's just give it a second. Much better. Perfect.
Perfect.
Great.
Cool.
Now I had to turn myself back up just to make sure. Yeah, so as I was saying, I just assume a lot of people, like, this is a very open subject, and I think it's a very easy topic to just do a cash grab. Like, I'm sure if I pushed out tomorrow morning a little ebook saying 10 ways to be a freelancer, that it will sell. That's kind
Yeah.
of, and it would hurt, people like yourself who are authentic and really are building up a reputation for doing this well. And I think that's what a key difference is always look for, like, one of my favorite places to go for knowledge is Front End Masters, and that's because all of their teachers actually still code and run companies and do the things, rather than learn something to teach something, and because it
I like
is,
that.
I think a lot of times that's the problem, is teachers are teachers. And I always slag, because I was terrible in school. I never got along well with teachers. I dropped out of college. But I always say to people, and I'm sure I've said it to a couple of my teachers, was those who can't teach. And here I am trying to teach people this now. I guess I'm a hypocrite. So, yeah, it probably doesn't bode well for me. But I do think that's a problem as well in itself. And totally right that you do need people that are actually doing this, so they can understand real problems. Because, as I said, some of the stuff I wanted to talk to you about today are the likes of getting started and the struggles and what you had to do. Because I know from doing some research on you that you really did struggle to get the couple of clients to start, and you had to do, like, what, a €5 job. I think it might be a great place to start about how you got started, and I can discuss then how I got started, because I know they're very
sure.
different.
Sure. Would you like me to go first, or do you want to lead us into that?
Yeah, actually, one thing I'm going to do first, let me see if I can share my screen here. I want to put a legal disclaimer here. Let's see if I can get this. Where can I share my screen? I can't share the one I wanted. Oh, I can. Okay, share. Okay. Just because I am going to probably say things that I had done that may be closer, and I've said this to people in my meetups in person a lot of the time, that I borderline take a lot of risks, and I had earlier on in my career probably done things that were borderline illegal. And when I give advice, please don't take it as legal advice. And I'm sure Kyle is having a glass of wine now as well. So that just in case, like, what we're giving is how we did these things and our own honest opinions. And this is just so we can really keep it honest, to just realize if you're talking about contracts, and I will give some advice on that kind of thing and some of the legal things on it. But just remember that do seek real legal advice when it comes to the likes of insurance and company formations and things like that, because depending on where you are in the world, it's going to be drastically different than it is for me. Okay, I think that was my intro into. Now you can kind of spill how you started doing things, but
Okay.
that's all. I just wanted to make sure that I was covered. I didn't want anyone giving out to me afterwards.
I like it. Okay. I think first things first. Cheers to everyone for joining.
Cheers.
It's very awesome to have you guys here. Hopefully, you can learn something from our journeys. And if you have any questions, really feel free to ask them. I mean, we literally, we're doing this to catch up. It's the first time I've actually spoken to Niall, but also for you guys, to answer any questions. So very important. This is not Stack Overflow where you get, beaten just for asking a simple question. We'll answer any simple question. So go ahead. I think with that legal disclaimer said, sorry.
I'm not saying not to do it, but by any means, I guess you're improving yourself.
I like it. That's classic. Okay, so starting off, Niall mentioned, the struggles, and yes, not to sugarcoat it. Things were very difficult for myself about 5 years from now. Just to sort of start it off, around 2015, I was in a job or let me just say, I dropped out of high school because I wanted to focus on some business ventures. It didn't work out, but I learned a lot from that. So I wouldn't call that necessarily a failure. Then I just did some random odd jobs here and there through friends, in accounting, in various different places. And then I found myself in IT. And I was just helping as almost like an administrator, nothing IT related or tech related, just like holding ladders, for network installation. So very like entry level job, doing installations, all of those things. And then where this company was situated, directly across from the road at night, there used to be like a college. And I thought to myself, okay, what could I study at this college? So I had to take out a loan, and it was $500 at the time. I remember it very clearly. So I just loaned that from a few friends to study business management. That's something I was very interested in at the time. So I studied that. That was a year-long course through one of my lecturers. He referred me to one of his friends in business because I was also studying on the side online marketing, internet digital marketing, which I found very helpful for growing a business. So long story short, I got a job in marketing, and then I was there for 3.5 years in total. But what I found that after about a year and a half or a year into my career at this marketing company, and let me just start off by saying this was a massive company. I mean, they did massive online businesses where they sold stuff and all of that. So it was a great learning curve in this business. So although it was great, I enjoyed it, the money was just not enough because my wife came down, she's from India, and she couldn't legally work. So we had to rely on one income, and it just wasn't feasible for us. During the course of a year, we were just heavily in debt, and things were just snowballing, and we lived a very simple life. I mean, we literally sacrificed, even cheese, cheese was a luxury, so seriously, we were like struggling, in a small little place, nowhere near to the like blessing, like fortunate life we are living now, let's just say that. So what happened was, I was very frustrated, right? I wanted to do something, but I just didn't know what. I needed to earn an additional income. I didn't know what. I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't know what. Eventually, my wife said, why don't you learn web development? So I studied on Udemy, a little web development course, and I found that the web development knowledge plus the marketing knowledge worked extremely well, because what you could then offer to a client was a website, but now you could also offer marketing services to help him get clients or help him get more sales. So I found it was a great ecosystem. Let's put it that way. So before I knew it, after a year working my full-time job, I was already replaced my full-time job income on the side as through freelancing. And let me say that doesn't really happen with everyone. I understand I was very fortunate in how that happened and played out. And then that led to more and more sales. And then I eventually left after about 3.5 years. It took me a while, but I enjoyed what I did. And I was also earning like a lot on the side. And then eventually I'm like, okay, let's just make the move, you know. And then I went freelancing full time, and that was about, I think, just over 3 years ago, maybe even 4. I'm actually not sure anymore now. But around 3-4 years full time freelancing, and since then we've grown into a small team. It's about 5 or 6 of us full time now, and we do various different outsourcing to people, you know, around the world, and we're really fulfilled in what we do. You know, helping others, teaching them how to fish. So I know I spoke a lot there, but that's pretty much the intro of my story.
And I think you said you were fortunate, you know, at a point, you know, that you got that income fast. But I think the other thing to realize is you weren't making enough to begin with there. That's what I got from that story as well.
Yeah,
so the fact that you still needed to, you know, stay for 3.5 years is just, it kind of says a lot. It still was something that was drastically needed. Nobody would be saying, I'm making loads of money at this thing over here. You know, it's
I mean, what was interesting was even though I was earning more on the side, I still worked at the company for a whole year, you know, as well on top of that. So it was a bit of both, because these guys that I used to work with, I'm very good friends with them now, and I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot from them. So I viewed it very much as like my you can call it like an MBA or like your degree, let's say, you know, because I didn't have one. I just learned on the job, and I wanted to build up a lot of savings on the side so that when I stepped over into freelancing full time, I had a bit of a nest egg, a security.
Yeah.
And then also I wanted to learn. So that's pretty much the thinking behind that.
Yeah, I think learning is probably the key part, and we'll touch on that for sure later, because it's something that we all need to do, especially when you're looking after your own income. You can't just get too cozy or else you go out of date very fast.
True.
I suppose for myself then, it was way different, I guess. I was working 6 years ago in a wine shop. I was one of 2 people in a wine shop, and I was saying to Kyle that I've actually met a lot of South African winemakers via that. I was the resident beer expert for the company. It was Corkscrew, is the name of them. They're based in Chatham Street in the city centre here. About 2,000 different wines. So I was constantly, you know, just giving people tastings. But between customers, I was studying on the counter because I got very sick. I got rheumatoid arthritis, and I was struggling to walk. So I had to make a decision. You know, I loved what I did. It wasn't paying very well. I just loved what I did. But I think I kind of have that attitude no matter what I did, because I've done everything from dog charities to fixing washing machines, and I've always just loved what I've done. But what I realized at this point was I need something that means if I become unable to walk, that I'm still able to enjoy my life. And what I wasn't able to do at the time even was pay for the consultants I needed to, you know, the private consultants that would get me the best treatment. So I literally started Googling easiest way to make money, you know, money without a degree.
You were one of those guys. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I literally just Googled. Now, I had done a year in computer science, and I had built a couple.
I must just tell you this. You can see this poor guy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't say well. I swear it probably wasn't a wine. The thing was, I was in a severe amount of pain, and I was struggling so bad. From withdrawals probably as well. He'll say in a minute. But the thing, not at all, Paul. I love it. I wanted it to be more interactive, so keep on throwing messages into chat. That's what makes this interesting. But yeah, so I just started learning between customers, refreshing my skills. I'd built like websites with Dreamweaver and WordPress. I'd built a couple of websites for like bands and things like that. But because I just never thought it was an actual career. I don't know if that makes sense. But it was only when I started Googling things, I was like, oh, maybe I like drawing at the time. So I was like, maybe I can be a web designer. And I started learning HTML, CSS, a little bit of JavaScript. And I was like, you know what? I really like this coding part of it. So I was like, oh, it turns out if you're coding, you make even more money. So I was literally like, okay, so I'll just do that then. So I doubled down on JavaScript, and that's what I went for. I actually got my first few clients, or how I got my first job was I had run a beer club in Dublin, and so it was about 20 people that got together and tasted 10 new beers every month, and I got my first couple of clients via that. So it was for a motorbike shop and an electrician that I built 2 sites for. I built one in AngularJS at the time because I needed Angular on my portfolio, and the other one I just did in Bootstrap and HTML. And they were my 2 kind of big projects. I'd done a couple of smaller ones as well, but like even smaller. And they were my kind of projects that I put on my portfolio and used as my references to go and get employed. And then I got a job in Amdocs, who flew me to Australia working with Optum. I worked with an Israeli client. I worked with AT&T a little, Tree Ireland, Vodafone Italy, Vodafone UK, all in the space of 9 months. So my portfolio now was going, crazy big already. And I just thought, what would they ask? Like, what do I need to know to be a senior engineer? So I rang a guy I knew who was a recruiter at the time, and he just said, I can get you an interview if you want. So what I did was, he's like, but this is contracting. So I said, you'll need your own company. You'll need to do it. I was like, you know what? I think I'd prefer that anyway. So I just went for the interview to just see what they'd ask a senior engineer. And they gave me the job. So I got the job. And since then, I'd kind of been freelancing basically and contracting and taking in jobs. As I said, because I had my own company then registered, I was able to start taking in side jobs, but I always kind of had a bread and butter contract always as well. So definitely a little bit different to yours, Kyle, for sure.
Yeah, wow. So are you still doing that now? Is that like your full-time gig?
Yeah, my full-time gig is I'm working with a few businesses now, but my main, like as I said, I usually have a bread and butter contract as well. That brings I have at least I'll have one contract that will always pay the bills, say, and then I'll work on several other smaller contracts behind the scenes as well. So at the moment, I don't know if I can name who, because I'm always signing NDAs for these things, because I work with enterprise. That's a good question there from Philip. I'll throw that up in a second. But I went from, because I work with enterprise, like every contract nearly starts with an NDA, which is horrible for marketing myself personally, because I can't show anyone what I'm doing or what I've done because it's so private.
Oh, so you actually can't do that, to land future clients. You actually can't mention you work for, let's say, Forbes or for Google or something.
A lot of times people don't want to share that knowledge. So what I have to actually do to tell people how many hours is pay the bills gig, I spend 40 hours currently on the pay the bills gig, but I've taken ones that are less. But now the pay the bills gig brings me in 150,000 a year. So that's
great.
Like I said, it's more than bread and butter I'm getting for that. So as I said, like that's the reason I took it. It was lucrative. As I said, it would take a couple of other contracts to make that really, if I was doing it myself. And I think it's important. That's why I'll shout out a couple of numbers there, because I know myself and Kyle have a very different style as well of even the types of clients we take. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I have to do to get a client is tell them, trust me, I've worked for lots of really big companies, sign this NDA, and then I can talk about the work. So once they're under an NDA, then I can start actually showing them, say, videos of what I've done. And that becomes actually part of my sales process then, because there's a little bit of mystique. A little bit of mystique. They've already committed to sign something with you to just see your work. And they're already interested in you as a person. They've been recommended probably. They've heard good things. So you sign the NDA, and then I'm instantly showing you loads of things you didn't even know was going on. So you're like I suppose one of the things I can talk about that I've done recently is like an eSIM platform. It's not launched just yet, but like downloadable SIM cards through an e-commerce platform. Really fun.
Wow.
But I say like those kind of like, it's cutting edge technology. It's that kind of thing that kind of helps me sell it. But again, it's so difficult to not be able to make a portfolio, because I know that's going to be one of your biggest things probably for people, is saying, have a good portfolio.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean your results speak for you, But I mean, how you went about it was actually great. I just want to quickly look at Philip's question quickly. You want to put that up? So he says, tips from switching in-house web design to freelance, or at least building to freelance. So basically, I think he's pretty much starting asking how do you start freelancing from scratch? But let's just also answer the indirect question, is from in-house web design to freelance. What I say is, okay, this is my advice. It's not a one size fits all. This is just my opinion, right? You need at least 3 months saved, cash, expenses, overheads. So let's say you need $5,000 per month to break even. Ideally, I would like you to have 15,000 in the bank savings. That's number one. Number two, I would like you already to be earning a side income of at least, the more the better, but I just want to give you a worst case, at least 50% of your full-time income on the side. If you've got those two things ready, you've got 3 months savings, and you're already earning close to 50% of your full-time income, go for it. That is my quick advice on that, because that's a little bit more wise, and you've got a little bit more backing in case something goes wrong. Because one can argue, yes, you're only earning 50% on the side, but one can argue the other side that now you've got a full-time focus on building your freelance career. So the chances are by the third month you should have even more income. That's my quick reply to that. Niall, do you want to add to that?
I think you hit the nail on the head really there. So like I would have said the exact same thing. Have some savings. For the figure, like as you said, you're saying 5,000. I always tell people, if you want to be aggressive with it, that 50% or that money you have saved is like the essentials. As I said, this is enough to, pay the bills for 3 months and, maybe have a nice meal out each month, I wouldn't if you want to be aggressive, as I said, you don't need your current salary for 3 months either. I think a lot of people kind of go, I can never save my whole salary for 3 months. Yes, that would be the best case scenario, but I would always say to people, if you're going to be very aggressive, at least make sure your bills and everything are paid for 3 months.
Good point. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm definitely not saying like luxuries. I mean, when you're starting a new business, you're starting something new. Sometimes you have to play the long-term game. I mean, how's this? Let me tell you this. I think about 3 years ago, must have been about 3 years ago. Yeah, it was about maybe a bit more, 3.5 years ago. I was already earning a good income from the business, right? But you know what I did? I moved in with my wife into a small apartment with my mom, actually, to a different city, just to help her. Okay, she was struggling financially, so we had to help her, and we thought, okay, let's also move in there. So I could have, moved into a bigger place with my wife, paid our bigger place and sort of grew the business from there. No problem. But what I decided to do, and I don't know how rental is around the world, but let's say, for example, I could save $500 a month, and that's $6,000 a year in the business. And I know there's trade-offs and all of that, compromise and all that. But what I'm trying to say is make compromises for the first 3 months or first 6 months, whatever it is, as you're trying to grow your freelance business, because you can't live a life of luxury and invest. I think that's a little bit too difficult.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's not. I just want to shame Jesse here, who said he's late. So when you go to class and you're shamed for walking in late, that nobody will let you do that quietly. So yeah, you said it completely right. There's nothing I can disagree there. I said, like, if you can save money to make things happen, like, it always goes down to how hungry are you, how much do you want to make this happen as well. It really is a difficult scenario. There's never going to be a right time, is what I always tell people as well. There's always going to be problems that show up in your life. There's always going to be, say, like, you've a family, maybe you're trying to get a mortgage, maybe you're, having problems in work, maybe you're a bit concerned, but you just have to weigh up. And I always say, like, a lot of people say, what if it goes wrong? I am an advocate for what if it goes right,
Same.
And I think it is a mentality shift of trusting yourself. And very worst case scenario, thankfully, especially if you're doing some web development, web design style things, is we have a good skill set that's needed. So we can actually get back into a job, hopefully, if things go wrong. I see a question here for me as well. So when you work on a contract, you look for a kind of job, you are working with recruiters that give you the contracts. So I'm guessing, I'm reading this as, am I working with recruiters? So I have built up really, really good relationships with recruiters here in Dublin. I've actually worked in recruitment agencies here in Dublin as a screener. So I actually, for a lot of people that are trying to get visas with one company, I was working for a while screening them first to make sure they had the technical capacity to, even apply for this job, so that their candidates would be the top level. So they paid me to do these things. I met a lot of good recruiters, and like, I literally went, like, most people avoid recruiters like the plague, and I'm probably the only weirdo that has befriended most of the recruiters that have got in touch with me. Because
it's the beard. It has to be.
Yeah. So I literally just befriended a lot of recruiters that got in touch with me and said, hey, I'm not looking, but if you have something crazy that comes up, think of me. And that's all I say to them. I just say, if you have something that will pay me more than, I said for me anyway, I'll always tell recruiters now, I'll say, if you have something that will pay me more than 750 per day, get in touch. I might be interested. And that's, I said, don't get in touch with me if it's lower than that. Don't get in touch with me, anything else. I said, that's just if something pops up. But feel free, I'll recommend you people. I always recommend people from my meetup and everything else that want to, try things as well and get jobs and meet recruiters. I always connect people. I think that helps as well, because they're all instantly friends if you help people get through things. I'm looking through the questions here. We have loads of questions coming in now, at least.
Yeah, I see that. You want to?
Who will I put up? Joshua?
I just want to see quickly. Okay, Joshua was first. So yeah, let's address his question.
Okay.
As someone going to my final year of university soon, do you think it's reasonable to be playing now and get started with freelancing when I graduate without getting a... I'll answer that quickly. My 2 cents. Yes.
I agree. Just before I go on, totally agree.
Yeah. I speak to a few people who are teenagers, in fact. Funny enough, actually, a few people have, invested in like this bundle that I sell for freelancing. And it's amazing. I think the youngest guy is like 15 years old. And I actually asked him, why did he actually invest in this bundle? I mean, aren't you pretty young, you know? And he had pretty much exactly the same, you know, question or reasoning as you, Joshua, because let's face it, I know so many people who are my peers, who are younger, who are older, who have gone to university, studied a degree, and literally hated it, either during the course of learning or actually in the first year of actually starting their career. So the way I see it is, the earlier you get, or the earlier you start with freelancing, the better, because you've got literally nothing to lose. So how will you do it? What's an action plan? What's the takeaway from this? Look, legally, I don't know if you can receive money, being like a minor. I think it's under the age of 18, if I'm not.
I'm one of those people that will wink at that and say, of course you can
Yeah,
receive money. Just,
yeah,
you know,
so
be nice about it.
so I just want to leave that as a caveat, but you can wangle some things. I mean, you can ask your dad or your mom, you know, to set up a company for you on your behalf, or something, or a friend, or whatever. Just make a plan. That's number one. Number two, worst option, right? What's the worst option? What you do is you literally, and I know this is a dreaded thing, but trust me on this, you do work for free. Nothing that you can't handle, nothing that's too overwhelming that takes away from your schooling, or, you know, educating yourself in web development and freelancing and stuff on the other side. But you literally just do work for free, because the whole point here is you want a portfolio, you want experience. And as I mentioned earlier, you want to show the recruiter, or you want to show the employer what you've done, not what you can do. So I'll just end on that, and then Niall, you can add on to that.
No, I think you hit it straight on. As I said, like the one big thing you'll gain from this, and as I said, the industry is in a crazy cowboy place at the moment, and you will see that there is a lot of jobs even going up saying you need experience for a most junior job. Now, I would say any job that is looking for a junior developer with 3 years experience should probably be avoided like the plague. But what I'm saying is you should probably just have these things anyway, because you're gonna have a degree and a portfolio. So suddenly you have a major leg up on the competition to get that first job at the very least. And best case scenario, you have your own business at the end of it.
Agreed. Perfect. Yeah, and let me say this quickly, just before the comments come in. Yeah, but don't work for free. And yes, I understand many people say don't work for free. There's reputable people who say it, but anyway, I'm one of the guys who say the opposite. I recommend doing 2 to 3 projects for free to work on your portfolio. I tell you why, because I think very long term. I think 2 to 3 years, and that's not really long term. But if you want to get clients coming to you 2 to 3 years from now, what do you need? Think like a client. What do they want to see? You can tell them, listen, I can help you build a website. I can help you grow your business. But what they really want to see is what you've done for others, because that will speak for you. That will allow you to charge more for your projects, and also give you credibility. And and Niall mentioned an important point here: demand and supply. How many people do you know who can create a website almost for nothing for a client? And what separates you from them? They might have more knowledge than you. So how do you stand out from them? Through what you've done, but you haven't done anything. So here's the thing: view it as a short-term negative, or like a compromise for the long-term gain.
Yeah, totally agree. Like I said, it is. People want, and look, I'm guilty of this as much as anyone, but people want results now, and unfortunately, that's rarely possible. It's just, things take work, and one of the best ways, if you're struggling, is I always tell people is reverse engineer it, and you've said it perfectly. What does the client want? Then you would reverse engineer that, and I've always said that to all my goals. Like currently, I'm working on joining a company as a CTO. So like what I decided was I wanted to become an executive, so I had to reverse engineer that, especially without a degree. That was some serious reverse engineering to do that one. But yeah, like I said, it's always about like thinking backwards from the result. I had this up a second ago. I clicked this by accident a second ago at prime time, but
yeah, go ahead, answer that.
Yeah, so what are some resources to learning production grade development skills? Yeah, we all get stuck in this. Tutorial hell is what we call it. I think that's the common phrase for it, is where we code along, and when we go to like think of our own project or do our own thing, we just freeze up and we're just struggling. So what I always tell people is, try and think of something small that you would like, or pick something you like that you use a lot and build it. Or even like take a tutorial and change it. I've like you say, get a tutorial about building an e-commerce site, but have a type of e-commerce site you want built at the end of it for yourself anyway. So what you're doing is you're learning the bits you need to know to build the thing you want to build. If you just follow along blindly, you're going to forget most of it, and then it's going to be useless to you anyway. I said the only way you remember these things is practice. It's like going to the gym of sorts, Pokemon gym if you're me, but it's just muscle memory to level up and to just like get that memory of understanding how to solve problems. That's when you'll find real problems, and it's good when you look at something and you're struggling. That's when you're learning. It's because you're like, I don't know how to do this thing. So then you start Googling, then you end up Stack Overflow, then you end up everywhere else. That's when you're going to learn more than anywhere.
Well said. Yeah, I mean, that's 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I wonder what else we have. We'll see if...
looks like
I've Lucy Lee. I have a full-time job. Could I work as a freelancer as my part-time job? That's what we're talking, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Short answer, yes.
Absolutely. And as I said, like that's what we're going to encourage most people do to start. Is if you, like I said, freelancing right away as your only income should be if you have no income. Like if you are struggling, that's when you go to this as your resort to freelance. You don't want to leave yourself stranded by saying, that's it, I quit. I'm out. Now, where's my business? Like learn a little while you have some income coming in.
Exactly. Agreed. Wow. Okay. There's a few questions. What's next on the list there?
I think it's Rob. What is it? I took an evening job to give me the opportunity to work on freelancing, getting my first clients, proving real challenge though, lack of experience and imposter syndrome issues. I've talked to Rob a couple of times about this actually in our Discord. So I'd love you to actually take this one.
Yeah, I've actually also spoken to Rob, and he's such an awesome guy. And I actually replied and well, pretty much the same question that he probed. Look, let me say this and say that regardless of your age, starting to freelance is not easy. It comes easier for others. For some, it doesn't come easy. Some people are like, how can I say, change. They will embrace change, right? Other people are a bit slow or a bit hesitant to it. So nothing's wrong with that. But when it comes to freelancing, and this is probably the main issue that I find in speaking to so many different people on a daily basis about freelancing. And it sounds simple, but please, take this away and comprehend it. Freelancing is more about anything mental than about your abilities on how you can create a website. So let me maybe paraphrase or let me add on to what I mean by that. You can know all the 13,000 different framework languages out there, well, to be honest, I mean, even 13,000 isn't even enough. There's probably like 100 million by now.
One more by the time you finish this thought, in fairness.
So let's say you know it, right? Most people have the knowledge, but they just won't start. And why is the question? Why is the question? Is it fear of rejection? Is it lack of ability? Is it maybe a doubt in yourself? Maybe. But the way that I view that is, what is the worst that can happen? What is the worst that can happen? Think about it. and I'm speaking to Rob, and I'm speaking to everyone. The worst that can happen, guess what? Is they will say no. Let me quickly, before you say anything now, let me say this. The first time I picked up a phone and I called a client, I choked. I literally froze like this, and I was like, and I put down the phone. I couldn't speak. I was so nervous. But you know what? It took me a week to get over that. And I faced my fears, and yes, the second time sucked, the third time sucked, the fifth time sucked. But guess what? By the 10th time I did it, I got a bit better. And the thing is, I only got to the 10th time. Why? Because I was willing to take the risk and because I actually took action on it. So that's why I say freelancing is very much mental. It's not necessarily about your abilities. If you combine the two, you're onto a winner. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know what you have to add, Niall.
I'm gonna paste this into the chat. Let me see if I'm just gonna probably start playing as soon as I press play on this. Hold on. I'm gonna paste this into the chat, and I think I always like watching the Y Combinator videos because I do a lot of business as well, and advise businesses on different things as well. But the how to sell is a numbers game, and I think that's why people stop too early. As you said, like the first few are awful. It takes let's just say if it's a numbers great game that 2% of people actually become customers. That means, to get 2 customers, you're going to have to call and talk to 100 people. But that might sound like a mountain, or you can say, okay, now I just need to talk to 100 people. So then at least you can statistically or think about it in a maths kind of way and say, look, let's just start grinding. Let's start getting calls. Let's just hitting up people, reaching out. Anticipate the no, listen to their needs. If you get no, okay. If you get a yes, great. That's my 2 cents on that.
100%.
I'm going to put that talk in as well.
I hope that helped you, Rob, and anyone else who's interested in or who has a similar question. Mr. D. Thompson Dev. I wonder who that is.
Nobody knows this guy.
Danny, cheers.
Cheers, Danny. Great to have you here.
What is the best about freelancing? I would answer that, and it is conversations with Mr. D. Thompson Dev.
Yeah, that's the best. No, what are the worst things? I have to say, chasing money. Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, not having a definite source of income is always it's always going to be in the back of your mind, regardless of whether you like it or not. But the way I think about it is you're just removed from that by one step by being employed. You really don't know what decisions are being made behind your back. So that's how I kind of make it myself sleep better about these things. But that's definitely the worst. Is having to ring somebody and say, "Hey, you didn't pay your bill."
Good point. Good point. And also maybe not the worst, but I would say a bad thing about freelancing, and this is where I find a lot of people go wrong, is they are too reliant on their whale client. So let's say, for example, they get a client who pays them, let's say, a massive amount, like $10,000 a month, like one of your big clients, right?
Yeah.
But and now you're so reliant on them, it takes pretty much your whole day, and you bank on it. Your lifestyle goes up. You expect, wow, this client is going to pay me for the rest of my life. So you sort of chill, right? You're comfortable.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you get that email, oh, we're going to cancel the contract with you, or we're going to cancel going ahead for you, with next month. Now what do you do? Because now you have to literally start over looking for a client. So it's not the worst thing, but I would say it is something that people need to be aware of when freelancing. You need to, as they say, diversify, put your eggs in various different baskets, not rely on one single egg. And the best thing about freelancing, I would say, is the freedom. What would you say, Niall?
Well, that's why we do it. Is to be able to, I say this, like, take holidays whenever you want, work wherever you want. You know, because I definitely work more now than I've ever worked before. I think that's important to point out as well. But I am making more money than I've ever done. But I feel freer. I feel more satisfied. I feel more comfortable and happier than I've ever been in my life. And that's just the fulfillment of knowing the struggles to start and get there as well.
But also because you are working extra. Why? Because you enjoy what you do. You know, you don't necessarily view it as a job. You view it as like something you enjoy, almost like a hobby to a degree. You know, so at least I speak for myself in doing that.
Yeah, I'm super passionate about what I do, but also I always tell people, don't let passion drive you in these things. Just remember then, when you're working for yourself, you're lining your own pocket as well. So it's your own money that's getting better by working more. You know, if you get a project delivered earlier, you get a bigger margin on that project. So that's like another reason we probably overwork, so we can squeeze in a second client. So
yeah, exactly. And look, I mean, let's face it, the more you grow, you can outsource and, you know, pass some tasks on to someone else and all of that, so then you can have more freedom. Okay, Michael Dalton, when Kyle was working full-time on the freelancing on the side, how many hours a week was he putting into freelancing up to build his portfolio? The honest answer is I used to work from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night, and this was a very difficult struggle. So let me just tell you now, picture an iceberg, right? You know, you only see about 10% or 10 to 20% of the top of the iceberg, 80% is, you know, underneath. What you're not seeing is the struggle from where I am now compared to what I was, because I was literally working. I used to wake up from 5 o'clock in the morning to about 7 o'clock or maybe 6:30, so hour and a half. I would squeeze in an hour and a half before work, shower, get ready, leave to go to work. Then when I used to get back home, I used to have dinner with my wife. Then from about 7:30 to, or let's call it 8 o'clock to midnight, sometimes 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I would only sleep 3 to 4 hours a night. And I would literally do that for months, you know. So I'm not recommending that or advocating that for others. I'm just telling you, I needed to do something. When I say I had no choice, I'm not really exaggerating on that. Like, you know, we were desperate. We needed cash. So I had to try
the things we do for love.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, that was my path that I took. So I literally tried to squeeze in weekends. I tried to squeeze in everything, I mean, some Fridays, no jokes, I would get home, you know, at 6 o'clock at night or 6:30 sometimes on a late day. And I would literally work right through up until Saturday morning. No jokes, you know, no sleep, nothing. Because I was so focused on building a freelancing career. So yes, I hope that answers your question. It doesn't work for everyone. Yeah.
An interesting, just as a side note, Michael is actually an old colleague of mine and a friend of mine now as well.
Oh, wow.
Michael is a contractor as well now, and he's doing very well. I was actually one of the people that convinced him, said, Michael, you are getting so underpaid in this job, because he was one of our he was our only junior team member in the project I was working for in Bank of America, and he was just as good as us. You know, so like I was like, what are you doing here? You know, so he is a contractor now as well, and he also has seen me at my lowest point, which was I always like to tell people about these the bad moments of, you know, when we were saying be smart with money.
Yeah.
Here is the best story of not being smart with money that hit me when I had that contract. So contracts aren't, as you said, if you lose your whale client, and that's why I have some other clients now as well, is there's a big problem. Okay. When I went to the likes of Bank of America, I obviously thought it's a bank. Money's never going to stop, you know, so they can print more, surely. And I see the guy who got me the job, Brendan Hennessy, is in the chat here lower on, I've seen as well. But and he's a good friend of mine as well now, through all this. But I had a 6-month contract there, and this was life-changing money. I went from earning 40,000 a year to over 100,000 a year in 6 months. Okay.
Wow. That's great.
So,
That's great.
Yeah. So, but at the end of that 6 months, they gave me a 12-month contract. So I had a 6-month contract with them. They gave me a 12-month contract, and I was like, unbelievable. So the first thing I done was I bought a sports car. So Michael was one of the people that came down with me to the car park. He sat in my sports car. I was like, "What do you think of this, Michael?" So he was like, "This is amazing." I was like, "Yeah, it's great at the top." 3 days later, I get a call from Brendan, who has I've just also brought him, like he had brought me for lunch, but I picked him up in my car to show him it and, bring him to it. 3 days later, after signing this contract, they say, yeah, there's budget cuts, so they're cutting the contractors. And I was like, oh, damn.
So what did you do?
I still have that car. I still have it. I still have that car. I did not want to lose that car. It's gorgeous. It's a little MX-5. It's the fanciest thing I own. Really, I love it. It's like a little Batmobile. But like, talk about, like I said, that was a real like wake up call. Like that's what you need to know. Have a little bit extra. But I think that's one of those kind of warning stories. I told Michael that I said, like, this is how bad it can go. This is the worst case scenario that you're watching right now. And I was okay. Lucky enough, Brendan had me another contract with it before my notice period was up in the Bank of America, but it could have went so worse. Yeah, so thanks, Brendan. And I'm sure Michael will probably be laughing because he was literally sat in the car park of Bank of America.
Listen, that's funny.
Yeah, well, it's important, I think, to to understand this. Yeah, there's downsides to these things. Just a quick note that Nat put up is here as well. Make sure your employer contract allows it. This is very true.
Good point.
That's something just to check that, especially if you're working in like a software agency or somewhere like that, they might see that as a compete that you might be going behind their back and stealing their potential clients. So It's important to know, like to be aware. And now we finally got to Brendan here as well. This is my friend Brendan Hennessy, who got me that job originally. As I said, remember I said I befriended a lot of the recruiters, and he finished up his first job or his last job as a recruiter only a few weeks ago. So it's exciting times for him as he moves into the tech world as well. Not into coding, but he's best of luck for Brendan. What's your thoughts on charging an hourly rate?
Hennessy whiskey. I like the surname.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't beat a bit of cognac. I can't drink it because when I was 15, I think it was the first thing I drank with apple juice. And I got so sick that to this day, I still cannot drink cognac. So what's your thoughts on charging an hourly rate compared to a day rate? At times, projects can run over your 8-hour day and you can end up earning a day rate, which isn't service that you're actually worth. This is really good questions, because do you charge by a project, or do you charge by the day, or do you charge by the hour, Kyle?
Yes, good question. And I'm actually going to probe you. I actually want to answer you because let me start off by saying this is what I do. What I do is value-based pricing, and I'll get to how to do that and why I do that. But maybe you can shed some light. What do you think, Niall? What would your 2 cents be on this?
I am definitely the value-based pricing as well, simply for my personal rule of thumb, and I did this when I did beer tastings. I was the most expensive person in Dublin to get a beer tasting off, because my motto was pick a number you're uncomfortable with and pick slightly more. So that's my rule of thumb for billing, really, and that's why I can push myself up, and why I charge a lot per day, and why but like, that's risks. I get more no's than the people that are going, yes, that's perfect. So again, like that there is a trade-off to that style, but I think that's important as well, is to realize that there is a trade-off to being greedy as well. For sure. An hourly rate is great if you can track it. Okay, that's that's great. If you have somebody that's just going to trust that you are on the clock all the time and you have a decent hourly rate, fantastic. When it comes to like an hourly rate and a day rate, I really think they're the exact same thing, because if you have a client and they are paying you an hourly rate and it takes you 1.5 days, you're going to pay, you're going to bill them for 1.5 days or whatever, 12 hours, short. Say. It's the same thing to me, because there's certain expectations. Like, you can't go on your hourly rate and say, here, I worked 24 hours today, so here's your bill. They just will say, no, you didn't. So that's one problem with that. The value-based pricing is where it's at, really. And I've done this recently. I've done a couple of smaller projects recently. Like, one was a dog food site, and that was on the lower end of my thing. I only charged a few thousand for that one. It was for a dog food site, and that's because I knew the guy, and I knew that he wasn't making too much money from this yet. And as I said, that I would not have justified to myself saying, I'm going to bill you like I bill a bank. Yeah, sure. And that's true. And I wanted to help this person more than the money. I actually just wanted to help this guy get his business off the ground. And a lot of the times I work with smaller businesses is because I feel like I can really help this business and I can give them some value. And when they're a successful business, guess who they call? And I think this is the long-term plan that you were talking about earlier. But if you're delivering value to people, there's rarely an argument. And that's why value pricing, I think, is super. It's the best. It's the best of both worlds. Yeah, you lose some, but you're compounding that interest if that business becomes successful. Like your first 10, whatever you got, what was it, $10, your first client?
$5.
$5, and it turned into $100.
Yeah, and quite a few thousand, tens of thousands actually. I think on the pricing side, I enjoy talking about the pricing side because it's a very important topic to discuss, because it's often a big differentiator of what can separate you from others. And let me say, although we are isolating, the product, the pricing side, let me mention that how much you can charge is very often anchored with, first of all, how many clients you've helped and the type of niche you're in, or niche, wherever you are in the world. And that can often determine how much you can charge and why you can charge. So I just want to start off with that caveat. Then moving on to, let's go a little bit of a bigger picture, right? Look at the overview. Some people charge hourly, some people charge fixed pricing, some people charge value-based pricing. Is one better than the other? I think so, I believe so, but all can work. Many people have been successful in every single one of these different pricing methods. So it's not to say because this one we recommend this one, these ones are wrong, right? Let me just mention that as a almost like a disclaimer. The thing about hourly pricing that I do not like is, I actually tweeted this, I think this week sometime, it was fairly recent, where I said, hourly pricing, the faster you work, the lesser you get paid. Now think that through a bit, because this is my main issue with hourly pricing. It discourages efficiency. Think about it. Yeah. Really think it through. I mean, let's say you are building a website, or you're doing a one page or some software app or whatever else, and it's supposed to take you a week to code this thing, right? But little do you know, you can buy a plugin for $100 that can, maybe reduce your time by 90%. So what do? You don't do it. You don't buy it, because you're getting paid for the week per hour, because you've planned it for a week, and basically what it boils down to is, you are not going to buy the plugin. You are not going to buy the resource to be efficient, because you need to get paid the money, right? So it's almost like a counterintuitive thing. Then what I also found quite interesting with hourly, and this is where it gets very funny, is, well, funny in a sarcastic way, but most of the time, that's where you have the most arguments and disagreements with clients. If you really think it through, most of the time, clients argue about, how long you spent on a thing. Or you say to them, listen, you spent 8 hours, and then guess what they do? That's too long. We expected that to be 2 hours. So they argue about it. 90% of the issues is about, hourly billing and pricing. So if you have to eliminate that, right? Is there a better way? And I believe so. Because with fixed pricing is all right. I would say that's a little bit better. But the ideal one, as Niall mentioned, is value-based pricing. And what you are essentially doing is just think about it a little bit more. Let's say, for example, you could create a website for a client and they generated an additional $100,000 for the year through your new website, through your new changes that you created. And I'm using $100,000 because that's quite a small amount, or like a starting amount. Should you then not, is it not fair, logically thinking about this, that you deserve at least 8 to 10% of that value versus $2,000 because it only took you a week of your time? No, you charge based on the value on the projected ROI. So then let's go a step further. How do you do it? Because it is quite complicated at first. How do you start with value-based pricing? But I'm new to it. But what happens if I don't experience? And all of those types of questions come into play. Yeah. And I always use the example like this. Let's say, for example, a business sells consulting. So they're an accounting firm or a legal firm. That's number one. Number two, you've got a business that sells a product, any product. Let's say on the consulting side, a client is worth $2,000 to them. Maybe it's whatever, through a legal or accounting. Let's say it's worth to them, the average client. And let's say they get 20 clients per month. So that's $40,000, right, that they're making per month. And what you need to do then is this. So first of all, you qualify them. You ask them the question, how much is an average client worth to you, or an average product worth to you that you sell? That's number one. Number two, the follow-up question to this is, how many clients on average, or how many products on average do you sell per month? For me, those are the two main questions that I almost ask every single client almost straight off the bat, because I want to figure out pretty much how well they are doing on the current website that they have and on the current marketing channels that they have. Why is that important? Because I want to see, can I improve what they have? Can I improve their website? Can I improve the flow of how someone makes a purchase, or how someone fills out a form? Can I make it a bit better, from a conversion side? That's number one. Number two, does the marketing advertising channel suck? Can it be improved on, right? So if you can see potential and you can see, wow, I've actually, based on previous experience or based on what I know, I can increase this person's sales, let's say by an extra 1% conversion rate or 2% conversion rate or 10%, 20%, whatever it is. And let's go back to the 20 people, $40,000. Let's say you could increase the sales by 10%, right? Based on what you know, your experience in the past and all of that. What is that worth? So let's do the maths quickly. They are generating $40,000 a month. You could potentially increase their sales by 10%. What is that? That's $4,000 for each month. What you then do is you say, I'm confident that I can increase your sales with an effective website, with an improved advertising channels, by let's say 20% based on da. So then you would say, okay, you'll do the maths. You would literally in your proposal say that. You would say, okay, 40,000 divided by 10, 4,000 times by 12 in a year, 48,000. And then what you'll do is you would then base off the potential return, which is 48,000, give your price, which is 8 to 10% of that return of that increase. So you could very easily charge, let's say, plus minus $5,000 for the project. Now I'm using a random quick example here, but that is much better than just saying, okay, it's going to take me a week, I'll charge you $2,000. I know I spoke a lot here, so please bear with me. Niall, I'm sure maybe you have any follow-up questions, or you want to mention something on that.
I do want to mention something, because you are talking on the smaller scale of things. So what I would like to talk through, just so people have it in their heads as well, because I would like to talk about how that differs from the likes of a €1 million contract. So, and I think that, like I said, most people have not come into those things before. I've worked as part of teams, designing a €100 million project. Okay. So hence why my expertise kind of leans towards the higher pay bracket on these things. But the difference between that is and it comes down to what you said, really, with the hourly rate and what you're, like, are you really going to deliver what you said in X amount of hours? So with a big project, what will usually happen is you will architect a solution with the proposal and maybe have a discovery phase. So you might sell an initial discovery phase. So that's what I would usually do with people. Say, hey, it's going to cost 20,000, 30,000 for this first month. We'll work with a couple of people. We'll architect you everything that you want for your major application. And at the end of it, you'll have a document with an action plan of what you need, who you need, and how to do it. Okay? So what that gives us is paid time to understand the company, the problem, and actually deliver a real good solution with some realistic timelines. Then what I would say to most people is, you can say, look, with a fixed price, it's going to cost X. Or if we are optimistic and we do, like, say, a Scrum team per month billing, it'll cost you, say, here is our Scrum team at 50,000 per month. Here's for that team, or here's 50, 60,000 per month for this team. It should take this amount of time, but we will be continuously delivering to you every single month. And if you want changes, then you can request them because you are the one paying for that Scrum team. So, but the changes may impact the roadmap. So a project can then be extended out longer than that, because that's where I think that's where a lot of people end up saying, like, and I've seen it, the likes of, I think Hertz were recent, where a company, I think Accenture, I could be getting the companies wrong, but I know basically failed to deliver, I think it was a €10 million website. And it's really because they had the money, they had, their burn rate was super high because they were going to spend the 10 million to get this built. And then all of a sudden, a change or two comes out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden your burn rate, say you have a team that's running at 100,000 per month, is now suddenly eating into what should have been profit until you've basically blown it all. So I think it's important to also know how you would go about trying to win a bigger tender contract, and it's usually not by yourself either. As I said, that's a team. That's 2 or 3 people to even just discovery. Like, you want a designer, and a software architect, and somebody with a business relationship as well. And I think it's just important saying, because it's a drastically different approach from a small project. But then again, I said at that stage, you're talking about, you have a company at that stage, I guess. You're no longer freelancing.
Exactly.
But I just wanted to show the big difference between, like, and the stress that increases there as well is unbelievable. So is the extra income worth all the stress that you've just reintroduced to your life by building this stuff up? But I just wanted to talk about, because that's something that's I've noticed is drastically different when you talk to, like, bigger clients. Sure. That's the difference between, like, a contract, like one contract that will, work for years versus, here's 2 clients a month.
Yeah, exactly. No, so, good point.
Yeah, and I said, it's not a one size fits all. I think we'll keep on going back to that. It's not a one size fits all with a lot of these things. I think this is the next one on the list. How can you be sure if a company can expect growth with your help, marketing techniques, and what do you do if you can't get them growth?
Good question.
Well, this is survival for sure. I'll let you take this, Kyle. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so when it comes to marketing, it's always 2 aspects. You can help the business with marketing, and when I say marketing, that could be AdWords, that could be SEO. That could be social media ads, that could be any other display ads, whatever. Anything to drive traffic to a website, right? Now, when a lot of people go wrong is they say the marketing is not working. But when you look at marketing as a whole, you need to look at the website as well, the specific landing pages for the campaigns that you are running. So you can't say the marketing is not working. You have to say, actually, the website might not be working, the website page. So to answer your question, how can you be sure if you can expect growth with a company? How can you help a company? How can you be confident that you can get results for them, essentially? Let me say this. There's only two ways. Either knowledge, by learning it, what works, what doesn't work. I'll get to that now. Or by experience. So going back to this one, knowledge, how would you know, right? And this is where I think so many web designers and web developers, specifically on the front end, go wrong. They need to learn what's called CRO, conversion rate optimization. Because if you are creating a website for a client, how can you create a website that works, that gets results, if you don't even know how to lay it out properly and the colors to use and the wordings to use? Because that drives the sale. That drives the conversion. So, I'm pretty much going back now and I'm repeating myself. What is important is you need to know CRO. And how do you know that? I'll give you a few resources that I use. Nielsen Norman Group, Google that. They do various studies of UI and UX about what works and what doesn't work, what you can change. Nice. For example, let's say a quick thing, you're on a landing page and it's about putting out a form, add a video, because videos can increase sales by up to even 20% on some landing pages.
That's amazing. So that's numbers.
Yeah, and how would you know that? You need to know that, by learning about it, by reading about it. Let's say you've got an e-commerce website. What do you do? What are some ways you can increase sales? Should you add reviews? Should you add a better description? Should you add better images? Should you add videos? Should you have better SEO? Should you have maybe like a pop-up as they're about to leave with a discount? There's so many different things that you can do. So that's the knowledge side. You've got Nielsen Norman Group, you've got Kiss Metrics, you've got Crazy Eggs, you've got Neil Patel, you've got Unbounce, you've got various different landing page places, and all it is the psychology of driving conversions. So just to repeat myself again quickly, knowledge and experience. And the more you do, the better you get. So for example now, if we are approaching an e-commerce client, I can very confidently say, wow, we can easily help this guy, almost triple their sales within 1 year. Why? Because we've done it with various different other businesses.
So that's the easy way. Or you can do the hard way, which is add connections on LinkedIn that you think might want this service, reach out and let them know you're offering this service. Here's some examples of your work and that you might be able to help them. Do they want to jump on a call? So if you can even just set up, like I said earlier, I'm a big fan of the numbers game, and that's also just comes with the territory of charging more, that most people are going to say no to me. So like I'm just an advocate of getting the right people on the phone and getting an answer. So if it's a no, move on, but you want to get the no fast as well. Make sure you're not dragged out either. You want to find out, don't start, know what you're worth for how much time you can put into a sales cycle as well, because that can be a lot of wasted time as well. Let's see.
Agreed.
Next question. Thanks, guys. Want to start as a freelance without having contacts in the city? I live in Dublin. Some people have told me contacts in this matter is very important. Of course. Absolutely. So contacts, I'll take this just simply because I'm in Dublin. Yeah. What I would say is, one thing is, if you're local, we can have a chat as well, and a coffee about this as well, and I'll help you out as much as I can. As I said, because I live here. The thing is, though, going to meetups, obviously even meetups like this is great. I'm after pointing out people like Brendan Hennessy who are super well connected in Dublin, although unfortunately he's not a recruiter anymore. He will still, like, knowing people like that will be able to point you towards people that will get there. So what I would say is make sure, obviously it's way harder right now with COVID to do networking. And that's why I think it's important to get onto online events. And if you're going to an online event, what it might be useful to do, and this is still the reason I use my Meetup event page, is I want to know who's going. So if there is somebody interesting that I can reach out beforehand, say, hey, I see you're going to the same thing. What are you hoping to learn? And it's not even like you're not trying to sell. I would always say like selling is the last thing you do. Like everyone sees the sleazy sales guy. This isn't a sales game. Like you're like you're just letting people know, hey, oh, actually, I could do that thing for you if they bring it up or whatever else. That's my best tactic to get good customers. But yeah, I think you need to network, and you just have to think a little bit outside the box with the current state of things. Join Slack groups, like there's Irish design communities, there's Irish business communities on LinkedIn, Slack, Discord. You need to hunt them out, find them, and be loud, as in, and not be annoying, just be loud, as in make yourself known, to the point that people go, oh yeah, that person does this thing.
Agreed. If I can just quickly add on to that, and I'll just take about 30 seconds. Elohina, great question. When it comes to meetups, I want to mention an important one because sometimes I find that people do the meetups wrong. You meet up with fellow web developers, and nothing's wrong with that, but rather meet up with small business owners. Those are the people who would actually sign up with you. So that's my first point. Second point is, where can you find them online if you can't meet them in person? A very quick one, underrated one for now. There are various different channels, but use Facebook groups. Join small business groups or business groups that you're interested in. Just keep posting, adding value, replying to any questions that they have about websites or marketing, which will eventually pop up. It's amazing how good and effective this actually channel is. I spoke to a guy, I think towards the end of last month. He got 8 clients, 2 clients a week, just on Facebook groups alone, and that's free clients. So bottom line is it works. So do it.
I don't know why I totally forgot. So like that's something I actively do. So I work as part of the WeWork Global Experts Network. So I mentor startups, which is always helpful for getting new customers because they need help with these things. And I'm already put in as the expert in this area. So usually what happens is I'm not allowed to sell anything to them, but everyone always contacts me separately and says, hey, could you help me with this thing? The other thing is I join a lot of startup groups in Dublin here. I go for the coffee mornings and I don't sell ever. I just go and give some advice. I just say, well, based on my experience, here's what I would do. And again, that returns. And as I always say, I'm always giving with no expectation to get something. And it's a different style to most people because I know a lot of people are asking probing questions and going for it. I'm just in a comfortable position where I don't need to, beat on doors to get business. But you also have to just be aware of don't oversell always, give some value, show why you're good at what you do, and it will really help. But those business groups, I don't know why I didn't put that as a disclaimer. When I'm talking about meetups, I'm not talking about this one itself. This one is in particular, why I say it's always good to know other developers and freelancers is because you're having the same struggles and you're learning things right now about how you can go and be a better freelancer. So this is an appropriate one. Yeah. Whereas you want to be in the business groups for sure, because that's who's going to buy.
Exactly. Good point.
Yeah.
What other questions are there? Okay.
Difference between freelancing and contracting. Yeah, there's a major difference. Major difference in my opinion. Contracting is a short-term job in a way. You don't have the same freedom as you do freelancing for sure. A lot of contracts will expect you to show up to the office and work by their standards with their systems and everything else. As a freelancer, you will usually get a job and it will be your canvas to work on. It'll be your systems, your everything. You're the subject matter expert. Everything is in your hands usually. And I think that's a huge difference for like what it creates for your own freedom as well. I'm personally not a huge fan of contracting in-house with companies just simply because I like to be creative and I like to try new things and suggest things. And if you're getting contracted in, it's because they know what they want and then they just need to pay somebody or a code monkey to get this done. So I would say huge differences, to be honest. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Kyle.
Perfectly said. Nothing more. 100%. That's the difference. It is what it is.
Freelancers could be quite lonely. You have to work by yourself. No, you don't have to work by yourself. There is co-working spaces. There is online groups. I know, like I'm part of. There's a Party Corgi chat who they actually have a working group where people just turn on their webcams and work all day with their webcams on, just so they feel like they're with people. And there is other groups and things like that that you can do. As Kyle said, you outsource a lot of work. I do a little bit as well. You know, as your business grows, you're going to need to know new people. You're going to be constantly talking to your clients. You're going to be... Development is a social game. I don't care what anyone says. That stereotype of a coder in a basement is just plain old wrong. If you cannot collaborate, you are going to have a time.
Good point. Good point. Yes, and also, I mean, look, depending on, it can be lonely if you structure it that way. Put it that way. You know, I mean, you can choose to literally be in your room all day if that's what you want, but that's not really advisable. I mean, what we do is most of the time we meet at coffee shops, or we meet at restaurants, or we meet outside. You know, it was nice weather. So yes, it doesn't have to be lonely. Sometimes you can do your thing. You know, so don't think of it that way.
For sure. And it's important for your mental health. If you're worried, if you feel like you're becoming lonely, you need to, like I said, you are in charge of everything. And you have to remember that. That includes your physical health, your mental health, your everything. Whereas when you're in an office and you're feeling down, other people might notice. And they might say to you, hey, are you okay? And they'll bring you out of your shell. So it's important to like take a breather and literally look inwards a little every so often to just say, how am I feeling? And I might not go too far, but I've been in positions where I've been alone for too long, working on things in a silo. And then as soon as I meet the person who I'm working for, I have told them to go fuck themselves, because the work was annoying me so much. They were being so demanding. I was getting so aggravated. And their nicety then I just took as a sarcastic remark. So, you know, but as I said, like that's when I realized, okay, I need to, you know, look inwards a little more, reflect a little bit more, and like actually
time with people,
understand what's going on, and you know, talk to people and explain myself, and not just, you know, go, it's everything's terrible.
I see actually Fakea. I hope that's how you spell it or pronounce it.
If you could put if you can Fakea, we'll probably get to it in a while because I'm going down this. But if you want to put in the how we say it, that'd be great.
Sure.
How much do you want to take this?
Yeah, sure. So the honest answer is, depending on who you ask, they will answer it very differently. I will answer it as follows. The minimum requirements, as far as I'm concerned, is WordPress. That's number one. You can be a freelancer, earn multiple six figures a year. Trust me, just on WordPress alone. That's number one. Number two, HTML and CSS. That is the minimum requirements. And when I say that's the bare minimum, I'm talking about you can make a good income doing that. Anything extra like JavaScript and all the backend languages, yes, it can be done. But I'm just talking about the minimum requirements. You do not need to know the 13,000 frameworks out there. You can just start with either WordPress or WordPress plus HTML or just HTML. You can get started. That's my 2 cents. What do you want to add, Niall?
I would, totally agree. I don't think there's too much more to add to that really at all. I think you've hit it straight on. I don't. It's not a. Like I would say, like even WordPress for me, I would say maybe is a nice to have. Maybe you want to niche down and pick something like Wix or Shopify. Shopify is a great niche now as well. But
even
HTML, CSS.
I mean, Webflow is getting big. I mean, so many guys with, I mean that I know are creating multiple 5 figures a month just on creating Webflow websites for clients. So bottom line is you can really.
I was talking to Brendan, who was in the chat the other day. He texted me. He goes, "What's the story of this Webflow? It looks interesting." I said, "You know what? This is a phenomenal tool for people that aren't that technical." I said, "It's phenomenal, and it's amazing what you can do." But HTML, CSS for sure.
Sure. So we hope that helps, Fakea.
not knowing backhand will have for me. Look, I said, like, it depends what you're doing. If you have positioned yourself where your expertise is the WordPress, Shopify, or those sorts of things, it won't. If you have, like, for the likes of myself who specializes in enterprise software, yeah, it's going to hurt. Although my expertise is in the front end, UI, JavaScript, creating slick experiences, I do know Node and all the build tools and everything else that goes with it because I need to. But yeah, I think to be aware, as it doesn't have to affect you depending on what you're aiming to do. And you can evolve over time. Don't have to be in a box. You're not stuck. Like, if you're a WordPress developer today, that's not your life. You can evolve over time. If your goal is to go somewhere else with this, then go with it.
Agreed. 100%.
This is always a tough one, actually, when you're starting out. How would you approach pricing small websites starting out, but not coming across cheap or charging too much? What would you say? Do it for free? No?
So I would say a few things. So let's just step back a bit and then think of it in context, right? Every question must be looked at in context. If you are from Eastern European, I suppose, like almost like Romanian, sometimes you only need about $1,000 a month would be a great income. Let's face it. If you're in third world countries, $1,000 income is great. If you're in America, maybe not so much. So let's just look at it from a geographical perspective first. That's number one. Number two, how do you come across as not being too cheap and charging too much? And how do you approach the pricing for the small websites? You ideally, you're essentially talking about getting your first client, pretty much. This is the very much beginner phase of freelancing, ultimately. So I'm sure now we'll touch on the physical side. I mean, you can just, if you're at a coffee shop or a meetup or whatever, you can do that type of stuff, right? Perfect. It works for a lot of people. You can approach your friends and family. That's often very underrated. You can post it on social media. Hey, you're doing websites. That's that. Okay. But what I do recommend is to actually start off with a proposal. Besides that, so I'm saying do all of that plus create a proposal with, just a website, a portfolio website showcasing what you can do. Now, first of all, you need the skills. So don't say that you can create a website if you can't. at least showcase a few websites that you can create, right?
I don't know. I've done it the other way. I've just been like, of course I can do it. Swim.
I was watching you like, no, maybe like
swim.
For other people besides the Irish, let's just say that, the Irish with beards, you need the skill set. So Udemy is a great place to start. It's fairly cheap. You don't even have to pay some money. You can look on tutorials. There's, so many guys like yourself. There's Traversy. There's Florin. There's various other guys that you can learn from. So many different channels that you can learn for free how to create websites. Now you've got the knowledge. So what do? You create a portfolio website. This is how it can help you. I help small businesses create their websites. And then what you would do is you need some clients, you need some testimonials, you need some credibility to get these $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 plus projects. But if you don't have that, I'm not saying it's impossible. A lot of guys get it on the first 2 or 3 clients will be $5,000 projects. But generally speaking, it doesn't work out that way. Your first project might be $500, or it might be $800. Nothing's wrong with that. Just start. I would say that's pretty much my 2 cents. What can you add to that?
I would say you're dead right. My first couple of websites, I charged €500. That was what I charged for the 2 websites I built that really started to snowball everything else, because then I had something to show. And I also didn't know how to write a proposal. So I didn't even know how to price a website. And until you build a few websites, you won't know how long these things take. Or like, I know you're a big fan of adding on services like SEO services long-term or marketing services long-term. So these are things you can add into a proposal. So you can say to a person, look, if you take this package, we'll give you this discount on this package afterwards, blah, blah, blah. Here's the usual price for my SEO bundle. that would last a year. But if you're buying the web design from us as well, then we can do it for X, Y, Z. And you start having to be strategic with how you can bundle in extra things, like saying, yeah, here's this web design will take this amount of time. Here's what will take an X amount of time. And until you build a few things, you're just not going to know. You don't know what you can build. You don't know how long it will take. You're just going to be clutching at straws anyway. So you might as well just pick a price and go with it.
I like it. I like it. Great.
Next one.
I see Paul.
That's Michael from our earlier discussion. I do see Parth talking about how to start streaming. It's as easy as just turning on your webcam or screen sharing, really. That's all I've been doing, really, is I've been upgrading my set over time, but nothing else other than that. Paul is, yeah, I see this.
and look at Joshua's comment underneath. I like it.
Yeah, disclaimer, may not require alcohol. It might, in fact, imagine if I didn't. I call it culture, maybe. So where, yeah, gee, no beer, no stream. Yeah, because I was doing a stream recently, and I drank like 5 or 6 beers on the stream as I tried to solve problems. It didn't go so well. It was basically everyone in the chat answering the questions as I was drinking. So, so the value based.
Yeah.
Is this one?
Okay. Regarding pricing, if you can, I actually wrote a very, very detailed article on this, and this was about 3,000 words or something. So you can literally type in on Google how to charge for a website. And as far as I know, my article ranks #1 on that. And you can literally go through it. There's so much to say, and I can guarantee you the takeaway, you will really have some more clarity on how to charge, because I break it down from start to finish, the different methods, why it's important, and I justify it from there, and I use some very practical examples. It's actually one of them, my most important article, my most popular article. So definitely go read it. That'll answer all your questions on pricing.
Excellent. Yeah, and if I can get that off you at the end, I'll put it in the description of the video as well, so people can find it, because that'd be fantastic.
Thank you.
So, like I said, it is a lot of research if you're going to as well to find these things, and I don't think we could literally do another 2 hours on just that.
Yeah, exactly.
I see Florin is there as well. There's a great person to learn from on YouTube as well. Hey, Florin. And he is our Florin. He's not yours.
That was a good one.
What we do to latecomers, Niall. Yeah, well, that's it. I've pointed them out already. I love the way people just know that I'll just put things up as well. I'm not sure what thing I've been showing off with this point.
It's your beard. It must be your beard.
Yeah, I'd say it's because I flagged up about the car as well. But it's a really nice car. I'm really proud of it. It's the only really shiny thing I own, I think.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, right. So back to reality here as well. This is something I would have totally disagreed with you on until I actually read how you done stuff.
Yes.
So I'd love for you to talk about this.
Yeah, sure. So what are your thoughts on platforms like Upwork? Upwork, Fiverr, all of those platforms. I wrote an article on dev.to, which I listed the best freelancing platforms to get a job. And I clearly mentioned there, I say, this should be your second option. Your first option should be your own website with your own portfolio. So let me have that as the foundation and say that, okay, let's move on to Upwork and Fiverr and those different platforms. It can work. Many people earn 6-figure incomes through these platforms. Let's not deny it and say it doesn't work, okay? But for the majority of people, the fact is it's very difficult. However, there are some ways that you can stand out strategically, and I'll give you a very short summary of what worked for me on Fiverr. This is what I did to get one of my very first clients. I figured out a way on how to stand out amongst all the profiles. So I created a video intro, not a normal image intro. So I paid for a video intro to say what I do. And what did I sell? It was website conversion analysis, like a report, let's say, on how a website can improve their sales. That's simple, for $5. And eventually I got a client. He paid the $5. I over-delivered. I gave him some feedback on his website on what he can improve on. He was happy. I said, listen, if you want a more detailed report, a more visual report of what I suggest on how your website should look like, I upsold him to pay $100. So he paid $100 for that more detailed report. I delivered it for him again, over-delivered. Then I said, okay, cool. If you would like me to implement this for you, if you would like me to actually make this website for you, it will cost $1,000. So he actually went ahead with that. And long story short, thankfully we delivered good results for him. I delivered good results for him, and he had 8 different businesses. He paid for 8 different businesses. That's $8,000. And then not only that, but he came on board as a retainer client, starting very small from $200, went over to $1,000, $1,500 a month. And what's amazing is this client, about 4 years ago now, he's still with us today. So the takeaway from that story is you can start small, look long-term, and look what can come from it. Let me also mention, this client referred other clients to us, and that was also very lucrative. So what started at $5 generated, a lot of money for us. So,
and I think that goes back to kind of working for free as well. It's like, I don't think Upwork or Fiverr or these kind of businesses are all that sustainable for creating a good, long-term, healthy business.
Yes, agreed.
Unless you are one of their top sellers. Like I said, there is those exceptions to every rule, but it's most likely you're not going to be that exception. I think for you, Rob, if you're struggling, I think the more you're kind of asking these questions, the most I would say is get a couple of things built. And that way you have something to display. Because I think right now what's happening is you may not have something to display. And if you do have a portfolio site, send it over to me afterwards. You're in my Discord. And if for anyone that wants more questions after this, jump into my Discord. I'm always there chatting with people. And we can, I'll help you out as much as I can as well.
Awesome.
I see just on a couple of people kind of mention LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn's great for me, especially with enterprise software and things like that. That's where people hang out. So that's where I'm going to find people. So, that's what I need. And we have another latecomer. Marco is here, unless you've been hiding in the background somewhere. Okay, as someone comfortable working on HTML, CSS, JSS, and React, etc., should I learn WordPress, or is it unnecessary? Depends.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I would. It depends. Like I said, it depends what you're targeting for. If you're going to go and start building full websites for people and you want to have a good margin on those things, the problem is if you start building HTML, CSS, JS sites from scratch, and then you have the likes of Kyle who is going to do that in 20% of the time because he leverages something like WordPress, it becomes really hard to compete. Like, you have to be pretty good with that tech stack to make it worthwhile, especially now. Like I said, if you know some React, if you knew a lot of React, I would say, yeah, you could make custom headless WordPress applications. But yeah, I would think that's the most profitable way of making things.
Yeah, and I mean, my 2 cents on it, I would say it depends what your goal is. If your goal is to work for a company, chances are WordPress isn't really needed. Most of the time, it's actually the coding languages. If you want to work for an agency, perhaps they want to know WordPress. So it depends on the outcome. If it's freelancing, then I would say try it. There's really nothing wrong learning WordPress. What you might find is that you can deliver faster, as Niall said, for clients, and it just makes things a lot easier. It's really not as bad as what people may think. You can customize it quite well. That's pretty much feedback.
And that comes with experience as well. Is choosing the right tool for the job comes with experience as well. Like I said, I still to this day, although I make a lot of enterprise software, I have still made a couple of Shopify shops this year. And I think that's, I said, because like I said, I would not be able to make an e-commerce site in a week from scratch. It's not with the bells and whistles that Shopify offers. So what was the point in me starting to try and do that, lose all my hours and everything else, and still probably have a buggy shop at the end of it, when somebody like Shopify has just nailed that, really.
100%. Just quickly, I see at 8:24, Joshua gave a question. Maybe you can see that one.
Is this one?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, Joshua. I don't know how I missed that one.
No worries. Okay, about a niche or niche.
Yeah, I was actually, I have a couple of topics that I was going to cover at the end, and niching down was going to be one of them, how to become more valuable. So please take this.
Do you want to answer this one, or do you want me to?
No, I'd love you to. I think you have a lot of good content on this as well.
Okay, sure. So a niche, I find is actually very important. So I advocate for it. I am one who advocates to other people: find a niche, find your clients, create your messaging accordingly, and get the clients within that niche. You can be a generalist. Let me just say that. You can be a generalist. You can take on clients with various different budgets in various different industries and do well. I'm not saying you can't. But what I find now is that, yes, there's a demand for web designers, developers, and everyone. But what I find is that the freelance market is going to get a lot more saturated. So the supply is going to be too much, let's say. So now the question is, how do you differentiate yourself from your 11-year-old niece who can create a website? Fair question. And yes, okay, experience and but I find one of the main ways is by choosing a niche. So what do I mean by niche? I'll give you 2 quick examples of great niches. I find great niches. Google Smile Marketing, that's smilemarketing.com, and paperstreet.com. Paperstreet.com is a law or legal agency that they only focus on website design and marketing for lawyers. Smilemarketing.com is they do website design and marketing for dentists. These companies are massive. They've got a massive team. They do insane amount of turnovers, and they do incredibly well. Another example is plumberseo.net. This guy, he actually publicly releases his figures. Last year, he generated $30 million, and he's only focused on the plumbing niche. What does he do? The plumber is a small market. They just need a website and some marketing. Boom, done. So what, as Pat Flynn would say, if you don't know Pat Flynn, I really like him. He talks about online marketing.
Phenomenal content, yeah.
You know him, eh? He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And he says, the riches are in the niches. And I'll never forget that. You know, very true. So that's the overview, right? And then your question is, how can you decide if a niche is not too small, worth pursuing? Generally speaking, you need to validate your idea. So you can either choose a niche based on opportunity, that you see opportunity, or you can choose a niche that you are interested in. Either you've got experience in it or you just enjoy working with them, right? Ideally, you can find a combination between the two, but let's just call it that for now, right? Opportunity. How do you find out if a niche is worth exploring? How do you find out if you're actually going to make money in this niche? This is what I do. I head over. Let's say, for example, I'm interested in nutritionists, right? As a niche. I would type in on payscale.com. I want to find out how much their annual salary is. And then what I would then do, which is plus minus $50,000 a year, I would then see, is that enough on their salary? How much would they need to be earning as a company to actually afford my services? Because as a general rule, a company should be spending about 8 to 10% on their annual marketing each year. So let's say, for example, it's an injury lawyer, right? Or a specialized profession. They earn $300,000 a year, like a doctor or something, like a real profession, right? Usually it would be a team of 2 people or 3 people. So let's say it's about $500,000 that they would earn just on salary. Never mind their turnover. You just want to work on the salary. They should be spending roughly about $50,000 a year. That adds to roughly $4,000 a month, right? So then you can work out, if I have to charge them, let's say $10,000 for a website and then $3,000 a month for marketing or $2,500 a month, that sounds good with me, right? But then let me also say this. You can go the big route and choose get 3 clients or 5 clients and you can be sorted. Get 5 clients for $2,500 a month, you're cool. Or you can get a smaller industry like the nutritionists as an example, and you can get 10 of them paying you $1,000 a month. Either way, you're making the same. So it's a quantity game. So I spoke a lot, but I hope that makes sense. If maybe you can add on to that.
No, I think you're spot on there as well. I see, just as said, Joshua, this is exactly what we wanted. So don't ignore Paul, who said this stream would have ended 30 minutes ago if it wasn't for you. Tell us what you really think. All right. I think I'll take this question and maybe one more question then after, and then we'll call it a night, I think. So what parts of your work are you outsourcing? For me, I outsource a lot of the design work, personally, because I fall in love with my designs too much and I get offended when I'm working with clients that they don't love it. So I need somebody... I need somebody impartial because I'm really particular with my designing and things like that. And my feelings get hurt. So I just get a designer in and then they can hurt the designer's feelings and not mine. So I get the designers. A lot of, like, I outsource all of, and I think this is important to talk about as well, is all my legal work, my accounting, the stuff I don't want to spend time doing, I outsource. So I have somebody that does my accounts every month. I have somebody that, looks after my tax returns, and I have somebody that does design work for me, and that really helps. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, we've got an accounting company that does our finances and accounting, and then we're a small team at the moment, about 5 or 6 people, and then various different other people. There's probably about 10 of us in total now, with around some part-time work, full-time work, and all that. But we outsource a lot of the content writing. Content writing is very important for businesses because, just a quick overview, we try and get clients on a once-off payment for, like, let's say, a website design or development, and then a marketing retainer. So that's where we really make some good income on that. And we focus very heavily on SEO. So we've got content writers, and then we do design. We've got someone who handles the design. I've also got someone who's handling marketing admin related stuff now. So she helps me out. She's awesome. And then that's pretty much it. And then we all have our different roles within the business, right? I mean, my partner, Johannes, he does the finances, admin, operational side. My wife does the web design stuff. We do hire another web designer. She's very specialized on some projects. So we sort of diversify. And then I just handle talks with you. That's pretty much what I do.
Yeah, that's it. You don't have to do it. Your hands are not dirty anymore.
Yeah. So that's it.
Excellent. Yeah, no, as I said, like it is about, like, optimizing, like finding out what makes the most money with your own time. Exactly. And, like, I always say that, would it take me longer than an hour to do X when it would cost me X amount to do this? Like, is it a good trade-off? Am I going to be saving, am I going to spend 50% of my hour that I would spend anyway, which is more expensive, really? Because people don't think about that. Time is money, especially when you're working 60 hours a week. Time becomes very expensive.
True.
I think we've actually finally hit the end of all the questions.
Yeah, wow.
I have a couple of my own questions for you, Kyle, before you go.
Sure. Go ahead.
So one question I really want to ask is, what, and I had it written down as well because I put it out in front because I know I'm getting tired now as well myself at this stage. So I'm sure you are as well. What is the
Sure.
most worthwhile investment you ever made in your career so far?
Wow. Okay. So on a personal capacity, if I just talk personal, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but my wife is like the best thing that has happened to me on a personal capacity. In a business
Yeah.
capacity, what has been the best investment? Wow, good question. Previously, just some background, it was just me doing the business and then my wife, you know.
Yeah.
I would say what was the biggest change, what has really helped me and grow as a person, grow as the business, was getting a partner on board, like a friend of mine. Last year, January, Johannes joined the business, and we pretty much do everything 50-50, you know, and that has really helped. So that, I would say that's pretty much my best investment, if that answers it.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I mean, it's really been an amazing journey.
Yeah, and like I said, that's excellent. Like I said, because that is an investment. You know, you're, as you said, especially when it's a 50-50 thing, you go from like having control of everything to sharing. It's not an easy choice to
Yeah,
make, but it's obviously paid off.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then my last question for you, and then
Hmm.
I'll release you back into the wild. I'm guessing where the lions and everything are roaming outside your door. That's what I envision. So, advice to newcomers on not getting overwhelmed. So, like, what's the best advice you give somebody that's new to this? Like I said, we've seen a lot in the chat there. Is it enough with this, or is it enough with, knowing just some CSS? How do you stop from getting overwhelmed, or what did you do even in the beginning days to stop getting overwhelmed?
Wow. Very good question. And if I go based on experience, I did not handle that well. I really actually struggled with that. I literally just had to work through it, to be honest with you. I just had to handle the stress. But I would say my advice on that is, and I know it's difficult, but try and find a balance as much as possible. You know, try and isolate your work. So when you are coding, when you are learning, focus and learn and do it properly, right? When you are relaxing with your family, your spouse, you know, your children, your friends, whatever, block it out. Don't focus about work now. Just enjoy the moment. Because if you are not present where you are and you're thinking about work or studies or oh, I need to figure this one thing out, and it's always on your mind, that actually burns you out, you know. So I don't know if maybe it's the best advice, but that's pretty much what I've learned over the years, and I struggle with that. Sometimes I just need to refocus and sort of really put things in perspective again, to realize, like, let's say I'm having dinner with my wife. I need to really stop focusing about work. I need to just enjoy the moment, enjoy the time with my wife, and just chill. When I'm focusing on work, I focus on work, you know. And look, I mean, when you're learning something new, let's face it now. I mean, anything new is stressful. I mean, we just got an employee that started this month, right? And for her, it's very overwhelming on some of the stuff. But what I keep telling her, I'm like, you don't need to worry. Look, as you do it over the next few months, things will get better. Anything
Yeah.
learning new, that is by definition learning something new. You will feel uncomfortable doing it, right? And there are some better ways on how you handle that. And what I find helped for me is just compartmentalizing it and focusing and breaking it up in blocks, and just focusing on the task at hand, not getting overwhelmed, have a blueprint in front of you, what you want to achieve, and just work towards that in a strategic, realistic manner. That's pretty much my feedback on that.
I think that's. I think I agree with you. I said it earlier on in the chat as well. As it takes a lot of work, even myself, to be able to look inwards and realize what I'm doing, how I'm behaving, why I'm behaving the way I am. And it's even more difficult when you're working for yourself, because you don't have somebody to tell you why, or ask you if something's okay or not okay. You need to really be introspective to see these things. And we won't. I'm not going to put up Paul's latest comment. So, yeah, I suppose. But he has two major investments. I guess that's the main thing. That's it. A business partner, a life partner. That's going to consume most of your money. In fairness, so for sure. Right. I think. Look, before more things come in and everything else, we're already hit the 2-hour mark. So I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get hungry myself as well. And
we haven't had supper yet. We must still have dinner. So,
yeah, for sure. So yeah, it was fantastic having you. It's great to finally talk to you, and I really hope we may do something like this again in a few months, because I think the amount of questions and how much we could have talked even more. It was fantastic.
I mean, it's really been awesome chatting with you. I mean, obviously we were chatting on Twitter before, but now to put the beard behind the tweets,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really been awesome. So thanks for having me, man. And I mean, it's really been cool getting to know you, your journey, and if others, sort of learn something from this, that's a bonus, So that's cool.
And I'm sure they did. Look, as I said, Kyle, the information was insanely good and constructive and actionable. And I think that's the main thing, is a lot of this stuff can be very, airy-fairy, but there's actionable items that came out of this that people can do to improve and get better at what they want to do. So, yeah. On that note, I am going to end this stream, and thanks a million to everyone who came. It was a pleasure as always.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. All the best.